this is Gina. Today I'm going to show you how to make this necklace and earring set with the newest treasure bag autumn showcase. However, I have all of these beads and pendants on my website, so that is ggctreasures.com. So if you want to make this exactly the way I'm making it, you certainly can. Or you can just use something in your stash, because this is a very basic technique that will work with most anything you have on hand as far as pendants and beads. Just use something similar in size and it should work just fine. I wanted to briefly explain something about the premiere videos. So we have been scheduling premieres for the videos, and some people believe that they are live. They are not live. The video feed is not live. However, the chat is live. So I try to be in the chat room during the premiere. So that's right when the video releases. The very first playing of it runs like it's a live feed because it has a live chat. So if you're in the chat room with me, say hi. I'll say hi back. Sometimes I'm a little late getting into the chat room because I just can't get my poop in a group. But I'm going to try to be in the premiere video chat room every time. So anyway, that's how that works. And we're going to go ahead and look and see what it takes to make this particular necklace set. I'm going to zoom you in a little bit on the focal area here so you can see what it looks like. And there it is. And that video is going down. Okay, so anyway, that's that. Let's look and see what it takes to make this. Okay, for this project, we are going to be using some of the things in the newest treasure bags, the Autumn Showcase, Sunrise and Sunset. In both bags, you will have the same pendants that I'm going to be using. Your 6mm rounds that we're going to be using will be very similar. So regardless of the bag you chose, you can do this project just following along here. Don't worry about color choices because you have the same stuff. So what I'm going to be using and I also like to say that I have all of this stuff on my website if you need it, except for the wire and the jump rings. So we're going to be using this gold leaf pendant. You have 2 of them, I believe, in your treasure bag, and we're going to use it. We're going to use this rosaline colored teardrop pendant that is faceted glass. We're going to be using that. And we're going to be using the gold toggle that's in the treasure bag. You can use any clasping you want. And we're going to be using some of the 6mm round beads that were in your bag. Now you either got one that looked like this, or some of them are a little bit more all of the rosaline-y, rosy golden color. Doesn't matter. Both strands will go beautifully with the technique I'm going to show you. So whichever strand you have, they're all a little bit different. Even on my website, they're all a little different. They're all called goldenrod, but they all have a little bit of different coloring in them. So we're going to be using those. So we're going to be using about 22, I believe. So what I have done is they're all a little bit different colors. So I've chosen 11 of one color that's pretty similar and 11 of the other color that's pretty similar, or you could just mix it up random. It doesn't matter. I just like to kind of balance out my colors a little for symmetry. And then we're going to be using some 8mm round jump rings. Now this is the outside diameter of the jump ring, and we're going to be using about 16 of them. And then we're going to be using some 5mm jump rings. Now, if you don't have 5, you can use 4 or 6mm jump rings. That's fine. But I'm also going to use 2 6mm jump rings. So this is 5mm round on the diameter, and so this is 6mm round. So with the 5 ones, I'm using 18 of those. Then I'm going to be using some 24 gauge craft wire, and I'm using a golden color. And that's what we're going to need for this particular project. So if you'd like to gather your things together, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, to start this project, we are going to attach this pendant to this pendant. So get your two 6mm round jump rings, and you don't want a really thick gauge 6mm jump ring, simply because you have to make sure two will go through this loop and they will also go through the pendant itself, this leaf pendant. So mine is probably about a 20 gauge, maybe 21 gauge. And you're going to grab one of your jump rings, place your plier on the side of the opening right here, and then place another plier on the other side and crank that open pretty wide. So you can see I have this open quite a bit. Then I'm going to grab my pendant and I'm going to go through the loop of the glass pendant here, the teardrop, and then I'm going to grab the leaf pendant, and in this first little opening right underneath the loop, I'm going to place that jump ring in there, and then I'm going to grab the jump ring and close it. And it can be a little wiggly, so just work with it the best you can, just like that. And I have one half of my pendant on there, so I need to attach to the other half here. I'm going to back off just a little so you can see what I'm doing, and I'm just going to do the exact same thing. I'm just going to crank this guy open here, and now I'm going to pick up my pendant and I'm going to situate it to where the loop is centered, and I can scoop into it, the loop, and then I can scoop into that first opening on the other side of the loop of the leaf pendant. Now I'm going to close my jump ring. And then I just adjust it so it looks pretty, like this. And this is what I have. Now I failed to mention, you want to make sure that you're on the right side of the pendant. You should be able to tell the back, but it's got little grooves in it. But just in case, just make sure that you're putting it on the correct side, and it should lay pretty well for you, just like that. So now that we have connected our two pendants, we're going to set that aside. Now we're going to make some little wrapped beads for this, and we're going to use our 6mm round beads, and we are going to use our 24 gauge wire. Now you're going to want to cut 5.5 inches of your 21 gauge wire, and you're going to have to do that about 22 times, and I'll make sure. But if you want to cut them in advance, I'll count them and tell you exactly, but I believe it's 22. Now what we're going to do, you can see I have my 5 inches. I am going to kind of straighten it out, and then I am going to cut, or not cut, but I'm going to measure to 2.5 inches right here. Then I'm going to grab my round nose pliers and place it on the 2.5 inch mark, just like this. Now I want the 2.5 inches on this side of my plier, so away from me. And then I'm going to place my plier up and down to where it's flat and it's parallel to the bead mat. And I'm going to just bend that 2.5 inches over the back prong of the plier. Then I'm going to turn my hand so now my plier is more up and down, vertical like this. And then I'm going to bring this wire over the top of that prong. And then I am going to continue bringing it around. When it's about 3/4 of the way around, turn your wrist so that your pliers are now flat again, and you should have a loop when you take them out, just like this. Now we're going to grab that loop with a chain nose pair of pliers, and we're going to hold it steady like this. We're going to adjust our 2.5 inches so that it's sticking out at the same angle as the plier here. And then we're just going to start to turn it. Because this is very small gauge wire and it turns very easily, I'm not using a plier. I'm just going to turn it around, making sure each coil that I go around the longer wire is right on top of the previous, and I'm going to do 3 full turns, just like that. And then I'm just going to take my plier off and I'm going to move this wire kind of up and out of my way. I'm going to grab one of my 6mm round beads. And again, you can do this. This is just a technique, so you can do this with any beads. If you don't have the ones I have, don't worry about it. I'm just putting that on there, kind of straighten it out like that. And then I'm going to go on the other side of my bead and grab a hold of it. And you want to make sure you position basically in the same place on your plier every time so that you get the same size loop and you get the same size space between your bead and your loop. So now I'm placing it on my plier. I'm going to push the wire over the back part of the plier here. Then I'm going to turn my hand again vertical right into that bend, not moving it away, making sure the plier is still touching that bead. Then I'm going to bring this wire over the top and then around the bottom of it and turn my hand as I do that. Just like that. So what I've got is something that looks like this now. And I'm going to straighten this loop out because it's a little off-centered. So all I did was put my plier back in and move it back to the side that was not centered, just like that. Now this side is wrapped, this side is not. So what we're going to do is we're going to hold on to the loop of the side that is not wrapped. And again, we're going to place our pliers on that loop, nice and steady, and we're going to begin to turn, making sure that our wire was positioned the same angle as the pliers, and we're going to turn 3 full turns. Now if you measured correctly on your round nose pliers, it should fit just perfect, just like that. Just using the same amount of space. Now if you need 4 turns in your space, then use 4 turns. But for where I am measuring, I'm using 3 turns. Now I'm just going to begin to turn some more with this wire. I can move this one slightly out of my way without bending this wire over here. Hold on to it securely, and I'm just going to keep turning around the top of the bead, kind of creating a bead cap with my wire. Now this is very thin wire, so sometimes your plier will move, your wire will move, things like that. Just keep turning it down around the base of the bead here and turn it as far as you can, just like that. Then you're going to turn your bead over, you're going to straighten back out your little piece of wire, and you're going to turn this side the same way. So I'm holding on to it, and now I'm just going to start turning it around the base of the bead here. And just keep turning it. And just make sure you just put the wrap around the previous one the best you can and turn it like that. Now you've made a bead cap on either side of the bead. What we're going to do now is grab our flush cutters and get as close as we can to that coil. You can even lift it up and move it back a little so that you can get really close to the coil without cutting the coil. Cut this down. And then we're going to do the same thing on the same side, or on the opposite side. I'm just getting as close as I can and cutting it. And I'm cutting it kind of at an angle so that I can tuck it in nicely. Now, tucking this in, you can distort your wraps. So you want to do this very carefully. Use a small nose plier like this one and just gently tuck it until it's laying against the other coils and it's not pokey. We're going to do the same thing on this side. Just like that. And that is our component. And we are going to make, let me count this really quick because I have my original design here. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. Oh, Gina. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. 22 is correct. So you're going to make 22 of these components. Now I'm making 11 of kind of the green color, and I'm making 11 of the more rosaline color. Like I said, every package you get of these beads is different, so you can do it however you want. They can all be randomly colored on this. You do not have to divide your colors if you don't want to. You may not even have colors to divide, because some of the strands, like this strand, is more uniform in color, so you don't really have to worry about it. So do it however you would like. Make 22 of these components and we'll be back. Okay, so I have made 3 units here simply because I have already made the entire side of the necklace together so you can see my patterning. And so I'm going to show you how to put them on, and then I'm going to show you exactly what order I put them on in with my existing piece. So I have made my 3 units, and I'm going to alternate the colors of the beads here. Now each strand is different, so if you have colors you can alternate, great. If you don't, that's great too. If you want to put them on random, that's fine too. You can do it any way you want to. Now you can even use different beads because, you know, this is just techniques. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab one of our 5mm round jump rings, and then we're just going to open it. So the opening I placed in the middle, and then I put a plier on either side and open the jump ring by twisting it open. Then I am going to grab one of my components and drop it on the jump ring. Then I'm going to grab the big loop of the leaf pendant and put it on also, and then I'm going to close the jump ring. Make sure it's closed nicely, and then I'll just lay my piece back out. And I'm now going to use a big jump ring. So basically what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to start with my smaller jump ring, my 5mm round, put on a unit, then I'm going to put on 3 of my components between 2 large jump rings, like this, and then I'm going to put on 3 of my small jump rings and repeat. So it's really pretty easy. So let's do this. Let's grab a big jump ring, and again we're going to open it by twisting it open like this, and I'm just going to put it on and then grab the other unit and close my jump ring. Lay it out, pick up another 8mm jump ring, find the opening, twist it open, grab the component and then the next component and put it on. Then I'm going to put 3 small jump rings. Now you don't have to, you can make more units, but I just, I get kind of bored making that many, so I always find a way to kind of minimize the units I have to make. So I'm putting on 3 5mm jump rings in between this first set of my 3 components. So I'm going to grab one of my small jump rings, put it on, grab the second jump ring and drop it on, and then I will close the jump ring. And I will make sure that the second jump ring that I put on is also closed tightly. And it is, it looks pretty good. So this is what I have now. Now I'll grab my third one and I'll open it, and if I had another component I would drop it on and put it on to this jump ring and start my units again. So I'm going to show you exactly what I did. So right here is the units that I just did in front of you, and then I dropped, right after I did this third little jump ring, I dropped on one of my components. Then again I did 3 8/0s because the first one of course is attached to the pendant, so this time you'll need 3, not 8/0s, excuse me, 3 8mm rounds. So I'm going to do a component and then a 8mm round, a component, an 8mm round, a component, and an 8mm round, and one more component. So I've switched it to 4 here. And then I put on my 3 little jump rings. And then I changed it up again, and I just did 1 8mm jump ring in between each one. Now I'm going to pause so you can look at exactly what I did, or you can pause the video and look exactly what I did if you want to make it exactly the same way. You're going to end up with about a 19-inch necklace once we put on 19 to 20 once we put on our clasping. However, you can put these on any way you want. If you don't want to have the 4 units in between like I did it here, you'd rather have the them every single one 3 units and then 3 little ones, that's fine. You can do it any way you want. But I am going to just let you look at how I connected them. And again, you can connect them any way you want to connect them. It doesn't matter. So this is what this looks like. Go ahead and pause your video now. Okay, so let's move on. Once you've made your entire strand, then you're going to grab another of your smaller jump rings. So I'm just going to get one of my 5mm jump rings here, and I'm going to open it, and I'm going to put my clasp on the very end. So you can also put another big 8/0 if you need more length, or you can put more little jump rings together. It doesn't matter. I'm going to end on 2 little jump rings. So I'm going to open one, and I'm going to grab another one and put it on. Then I'm going to attach to my last component here. So I've got 2 jump rings. And I'm just going to make sure they look good and closed. I'm going to open the second one, and I am going to slide on my clasp right there. You can make as many or as few components as you'd like. You can just do more links in between. You can arrange this any way you want to arrange it to get the length you want and the look you want. So you don't have to follow exactly what I'm doing. I'm just closing my jump ring because I could feel it on my fingers that it's open, but I can't see it. There it is. Okay. All right, let's close you better. This is one that's not cut all that well. Okay, come on, quit arguing with me. There we go. So, now that we've done this side, we're going to do exactly the same thing for the other side. So I've got one already made, exactly the same way, and I've put on my clasp, but it's the wrong side of the clasp. So let me change that real quick. Who knows what I was thinking? So I'm just going to grab a clasp here and put it on the end. And I've made these in advance simply because to sit here and put 24 units together would be really boring for you guys. And I don't want the video to be 900 minutes long. So this is what I've done. I've made another, and I'm going to put it next to the one I made previously to make sure it's exactly the same. So you can make them separate. You don't have to attach them to the pendant until they're both done if you would like. And that's really what I did for this one, is I made my 2 strands and then I attached them. So now that I have this second one all made, I already have my 5mm jump ring on the end of this component here. I'm going to open it, and I will slide it onto the pendant loop. Just like that. And close it. And now I have a really pretty necklace. These goldenrod crackle beads, they are so pretty with the gold wrapping. It's really, really pretty. And I think I'll go ahead and make a pair of earrings and we'll call this done. But see how pretty that is? So basically, I just want to give you some more reference since I didn't go into huge detail. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 of my components on one side, so my beaded components, and then of course 11 on the other side. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 8mm jump rings, and then I have 18 of the small jump rings on here. So that way, that kind of give you a reference. This is going to be about a 22-inch necklace if you count the very end of the pendant here. So, yeah, a little bit more than a 22-inch necklace. But around the neck portion, it is actually 20 inches with my clasping. So if you are a very large person, you want at least 20 inches. If you are a medium-sized person, you want it to be 18 inches. If you are a small person, you want it to be anywhere between 15 to 17 inches, depending on how small you are. So you can adjust that by the amount of jump rings you put on. Or make more units and just put more jump rings in between them. And I'm going to go ahead and design an earring. I'll be right back to show you how to make one. Okay, so I have made a really simple little earring here to match my set. Now I'm going to show you what I'm using for this particular earring, but you're going to double everything I say because I've already made one earring. I'm just showing you enough for one. So you need an ear wire, an 8mm jump ring, and then you need to make a component like you made for your necklace. So the previous components I showed you how to make, you're going to make another one. Now I have chosen to use my green tone that's in my particular strand for my wrapped one, and then for my dangles I'm going to use the other tone. Now if you're all one tone or you have different colors that you want to work with, that's fine. This is just the color toning I have chose to keep it symmetrical and consistent. Now, because I do not have a head pin that's going to match perfectly with the wire that I've used in this entire project, and I want to make a dangle here, I am going to make a head pin for this. I'm going to make a knotted head pin, and I'm going to show you how to do that. Now you need 4 inches of your 24 gauge wire. The 26 for this particular technique works better. I want to keep everything consistent, like I said. So I've cut 4 inches of 24 gauge wire. Make sure that your end is flush cut. And then we are going to place this wire in the very tip of our pliers. So as close to the tip as you can, and leaving a little excess so you can actually coil. And then put your wire in there flush. So the very end of the wire is between the plier nose here. And then I am going to turn a little crook in the wire. So I'm just going to turn away from me, and I'm going to turn as far as I can around my plier. Then I'm going to take out my plier. I'm going to put this first prong back in like this, so I've turned it over, and I'm going to continue coiling. And I want to stay as close to my tip as I can without making it too ridiculous. Now, when you start to turn, you're going to notice that your wire is going to start to move away from the coil you're making. So I just like to push it back together. And just take my fingernail or another pair of pliers and just push that together. And then I'm going to continue coiling until I have 2 complete coils. So when I see the beginning of the first coil, I will quit. It's right there. And again, my coils spread a little bit, so I'm going to keep it on my plier and I'm just going to squish them together with another plier here. Just like that. That way you can salvage your coil if it didn't work perfectly, just like that. And most of the time, they don't work perfectly. While it's on my plier, I'm going to take the excess piece of wire and I'm just going to bend it straight up, just like this. So it's basically the same direction as my plier. Then I'm going to take it off. I'm going to bend that a little bit more up, just like that. And then I'm going to take the end of my piece of wire here and I'm going to bring it around and put it into the coil, just like this. I'm going to push it in as far as I can. Then I'm going to grab my chain nose pliers. I'm going to grab the end of the wire. I'm going to hold on to the coil and I'm just going to pull. I'm going to pull as hard as I can and I'm going to pull this down until I have a knot here. Now, the knot isn't the most beautiful thing. Let me get you close. So what I like to do is I just like to grab a hold of it and just keep pulling it. Sometimes I will grab my nylon nose pliers and hold it down here and pull it as far as I can. And then I will take my chain nose pliers and just kind of doctor it up, just kind of squish it together a little bit. And then I'll straighten out this portion, squish it together a little bit more until I have something that looks like this. And then I'll take my nylon nose pliers and straighten out the other end. Like this. And now I have a little head pin, a little knot. And you can see how that looks. That's kind of cute. Now I'm going to take my bead and I'm going to drop it on the wire. I'm going to back off a little here. I'm going to grab my round nose pliers again and I'm going to place it right above the bead, just like this. And then I'm going to bend that wire over the back part of my plier while I'm holding my plier flat. I'm going to then turn my wrist, making sure that the bottom prong here is touching the bead. Everything's tight on there. And now my pliers are up and down. Then I'm going to bring the excess wire over the top. And as I bring it under that prong to make a loop, I'm going to turn my wrist and my pliers are now flat. And now I have a loop, just like this. And then I'm going to grab my chain nose pliers. I'm going to hold on to that loop. Now again, my loop isn't perfectly centered, so I'm going to grab my round nose pliers and I'm just going to bend towards the side that's off center and center it. Now I'm going to grab my chain nose pliers, hold on to my loop, and I'm going to start to coil around the long portion, and I'm going to coil very slowly and neatly, and I'm just going to continue coiling around the bead top. Just keep going, and make a little bead cap with my wire. Just like that. Okay, then I'm going to cut the end off. And gently tuck it in. And sometimes if your a coil piles on top of itself and it doesn't look perfect on the bead, sometimes you can doctor it up with your pliers. Just kind of push it down, just gently. Don't get carried away or anything. And because I do all the time, and then I ruin my whole thing. But there we go. Now I've kind of flattened that coil so that it's more of a bead cap instead of just a conglomeration. I don't know. Now I have got this unit, and my jump ring. So I'm just going to open my jump ring So find the opening. It's getting kind of late. My eyes aren't working, so sorry. Might take me a minute to get it together here. Now, I'm going to open it just like that. And I really probably shouldn't make my tutorials at night because I get really weird. So now I'm going to take the unit I just made and I'm going to drop it on. And then I'm going to take the other unit and drop it on. Just like this. And I'm going to close this jump ring. Like that. Then I'm going to grab my ear wire. I'm going to find which side opens on my ear wire. And I'm going to crank it open. Drop on the double component with double loops and then close it. Now I have a pretty cute set of earrings. Now my wraps aren't exactly perfect, and on all my units my wraps aren't exactly perfect, but you know what? That's just kind of the nature of the beast for me anyway. I never make them all exactly the same or perfect. This one looks pretty darn nice. This one's kind of goofy, but you know, I'm kind of goofy right now. So anyway, I think they're cute and I don't think people are going to notice it too much. And if they do, well, then they do. I don't know what to tell you. And I'm going to turn this over and lay this out and let you see what it looks like. This really turns out pretty, and these beads with this gold, they're really pretty. I really like it. I think it turned out really nice, and the majority of them are this green and rosaline color. Some of them are a little bit more rosaline, but even with just the rosaline, that's going to be gorgeous. So I know that if you got the sunrise bag, yours will have more of the green tones, and if you got the sunset, it'll have more of the rosaline tones. But some strands, regardless, are still have some of the green tone in it, simply because that's the way the strands came. They were supposed to be all exactly the same, but they're not. But they're pretty regardless, and will make a great necklace for you. And I have more in the store. Most of them are, and the majority of them have the green. I'm trying to get this centered, but you know, that won't even cooperate. There we go. So that's what that looks like. And I'm sorry I'm loopy and talky and weird tonight, but you know, I still made a pretty necklace. See. Okay. So anyway, I'll see you in the next tutorial. Love ya. Bye.